Hello, empaths. This is a little bit of a different kind of video, and perhaps one that I've been a little nervous to make. So the theme, without further ado, is things that an empath can learn from a narcissist. Now, why did I feel scared about doing this? Part of it is just the acknowledgement that first and foremost, there are a lot of toxic relationships out there that say, well, I'm empathic and this person is a narcissist, so we're just really drawn to each other and I'm just really attached to them. And it's just entirely harmful and it's really not supportive to either person and their growth. And I would never want to encourage someone to stay in something that is not serving their soul's highest and greatest good. There are sometimes challenging relationships that we are in for the benefit of learning, for the purpose of understanding and of growing. And having connected to many people who some might define as narcissists, and then also identifying many empaths and working with those people, I feel like I've learned a lot in my life experience and felt like there's maybe some misconceptions about narcissists. So first of all, I did want to say there is a specific disorder called narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. And so you may want to look that up to see what the actual medical diagnosis is and what that credibly says. I would also say there are narcissistic tendencies. What I'm going to be talking about in this video are narcissistic tendencies. So I'm not going to play in diagnosis realm. That's just not my lane. It's not where I belong. So I will talk to narcissistic tendencies. And in that way, there's a lot on social media about what an empath is, what a narcissist is, and I agree with some of it, and I don't agree with all of it, of course. Narcissists sometimes get a really big blanket and sort of a label. And this is something I was just teaching the empath energetics folks recently, is some different faulty thinking patterns that we employ. And one of them is labeling people, because when we label someone with just one blanket statement, we really are missing the depth to who they are as a human. And we are more than just how we present on the outset. There are so many more life experiences that are informing how that person is behaving. So things that an empath can learn from a narcissist, okay? Narcissistic tendencies sort of cause the person to need to self-focus. So a lot of people who display narcissistic tendencies from an early age developed this idea that if they focus on themselves and their own needs, then it's more likely that they'll be met. So likely they had a lot of unmet needs and realize they are the only person who they want, or, they play into a victim mentality, but if they focus on themselves, they don't have to focus on the world around them. So for whatever reason these tendencies developed, they are in my understanding anyway, most of the time, other than in that diagnosis category, which is actually very rare, it's very rare that that would just be stuck on a person forever. In this larger category where there's tendencies, we need to view it as a protection mechanism. So I do have a list here to keep me on track, because I could talk about this forever. Please, if you are already involved in the video, liking this, if I don't think I introduced myself, I'm Kate, and I'm from the Heart's Frontier here on YouTube, so you can see lots of other videos that I've done. I do a lot of oracles, pick a cards. I just talk about different ideas that, I think people need to know about. If you want to work with me, you can see all the links down below. I'm going to get into what an empath can learn from a narcissist, but I just wanted to say, if you're already vibing with this, you're going to like whatever's coming next. So make sure that you're liking, comment, and subscribing so this shows up in your feed more often, and we can hang out together. Okay. This is all leading also to empath energetics, our next round, and round 4. And probably the last one I'm going to run for a little while is starting in September. So that's early September. The early bird rate is $222 a month for 4 months. And then you get access throughout the rest of this year. So and that's $222 US dollars, just so everyone's clear. So if you join now until the 22nd, you can get that $222, and then it'll go up to $277 from there. So if you've already been thinking about it, now might be the time to get a move on thinking about it, because that'll be coming up. Anyway, So what an empath can learn from a narcissist. The first one is kind of what I was just saying, which is that, an empath and a narcissist could be two sides of the same coin. A lot of what I hear will say struggling empaths who are having challenges with their empathiness. What I hear a lot of struggling empaths say is they just need to focus on themselves. And what a lot of narcissists say is, you just need to focus on me. So we can see the, correlation there. As well, a lot of people will say that struggling or, unevolved or I guess, problematic empaths. I think there are a lot of problems with even just the empath category. I actually have a lot of disagreement with it. And I talk about that in empowering empaths within my program. So even putting the label of empath on someone, often we also sort of coincide that with codependency. And codependency is like the opposite of what a narcissist does, which is like extreme detachment, almost, to the point of not really even acknowledging someone else's feelings. And so when we have these two polar opposites, there's something that this really codependent person can learn about freeing oneself from depending on others. And then there's something that the narcissist can learn about trusting and looking for understanding in others, in that context anyway. So they are kind of two sides of the same coin. I really do feel like empaths are actually the lucky ones because empaths get to have this relatability with people that's a little easier, whereas a narcissist, often any of the people who have shown narcissistic tendencies that I've worked with, because I have worked with a few in my healing work. I love actually working with people who are trying to heal through their narcissistic tendencies. I find myself pretty sensitive to why they developed in the first place, and a lot of my tools deal with that on soul and energetic level to help remove the defense mechanism or the mask, or just to disrupt the ego in hopes that pure authentic self can shine through. Because you must think like a narcissistic person must really be challenged because they can't show their true authentic self for fear of it being rejected, which is why they put on this front or put on a face as to them being very self-involved. Oftentimes people are displaying narcissistic tendencies are having a lot of discomfort sitting just with themselves. So an empath has this sort of kindness or warmth that they've been able to develop, and that's a skill, and that's actually a benefit to them. So in some ways, a narcissist can show us like the ways that we've healed through the pain that we've experienced. Almost like someone showing narcissistic tendencies actually is having a hard time even facing their feelings, which is why they're like, everything has to be about me because I need to deal with something, right? Something big is happening with me. And so it becomes a little bit more self-involved, or everything, everything seems to pin back to that person, likely because they're really putting out a help call. And they're saying, I need this to be about me because I don't know what's going on. I don't really know where I'm at. I don't really know who I am. Whereas an empath is a little more likely to actually get to know themselves a bit better, a little bit more likely to draw in sensitive people in their life, and to trigger and then heal through it, because we feel things very intimately and sensitively ourselves. So they are kind of two sides of the same coin. And in the same way, I think a narcissist can show an empath how they are actually more empowered than they realize, even having those sensitive skills. As well, a narcissistic person can show us how, and can demonstrate very easily, they can demonstrate how to stand up for oneself. Now, they're not always the most tactful, so I wouldn't say take every technique, but the fire and the power to which they defend themselves, stand up for themselves, and have clear boundaries on what they want and what they want to do, that's something that an empath can learn from. A lot of people who identify as empaths and as sensitive people find it really challenging to put up boundaries. And a lot of this is because we'll feel how that might impact the other person and wish that we didn't have that effect on them, and then change what we're doing in order to heal or soften our surroundings. Because it's almost like we believe that when our surroundings are all managed, we can then be managed. But the problem is we need to do the other way around. And someone who has already slipped into narcissistic tendencies is really benefited by growing their empathic abilities and empath skills, which I feel genuinely are skills. I don't feel like it's some gift or some personality that you just have or don't have. So narcissists generally need to learn some empath skills in order to be able to soften and come back into the world and actually trust the world and open themselves up to the world, because that open-heartedness is really what everyone craves at their core. And so an empath feels like disappointed or dismayed by their external reality not showing them that depth of love, and a narcissistic person is wishing they felt that type of love. So, we as an empath, we're at an advantage here. And at the same time, it's teaching us how to stand up for ourselves when we realize, wow, they can put themselves first. And that's another point too, right? Like a lot of narcissistic people have an easy time putting themselves first. And what is the empath's number one struggle? Putting themselves first, codependency, relying on others to get their energy. Really, sometimes you hear empathic people complaining about energy vampires. And I'm just like, well, why are you hanging out with them? It's such a simple question, but we make the choice on what we do with our energy at any given moment. So it's really up to us to decide who we're going to interact with and how our energy is going to be used. And a narcissistic person does what they, what is in their self-interest, something that an empath really needs to understand and actually can really learn from them. Again, making sure that you're tactful and making sure you're doing things in a way that feels authentically aligned to you, and making sure you don't place yourself as a victim. I think both sides can do the victim thing, and much to their detriment, really, because there's only so long that you can stay in victim mindset without, becoming your own hero, where we say that's happening to you and not you're continuing that cycle yourself. Another thing that an empath can learn from a narcissist is our own triggers. So sometimes I give this suggestion when someone is in a connection with someone who is displaying narcissistic tendencies and they don't really have a choice to leave that person that really does feel aligned. Like when it is an alignment that person needs to stay in your life for some reason, legally, if they're family, if there's some sort of reason that you really go, that actually needs to stay in your life right now, then it's a matter of what are you learning from them? How are you changing your boundaries? How are you working with this situation? I know as well as anyone that sometimes you are meant to stay in something a little bit past what other people might suggest, because you are here to open your heart and learn deeper. So sometimes that includes a little bit more of a bumpy road. So don't want to play into the story of your life needs to be dramatic or you need to stay with someone when you really don't. But in those, situations where it really does, it's in your highest alignment to stay. And a narcissistic person may trigger you and may cause situations to happen that really dig at some of those core wounds that you have. And so what I like to think is, whatever ability we have to be triggered is also the capacity we have to heal that thing, because now we see it, it lives, it is experienced. As soon as we can experience something, we can move through it. So as long as we're not avoiding what's triggering us and we're actually starting to work with it, we can actually heal a lot of ourselves just by witnessing, what am I getting triggered by here? Okay. And then processing it. Now, I will suggest that you do that on your own and not with them. I think that would be really beneficial. But truly, you can really say, like, maybe someone is getting really, really feisty about finances. And that's something that you saw your parents do a lot growing up. Well, that's something that you have the opportunity to heal now in equal amounts. So that person's getting really angry and you're feeling really upset because you're like, why are you valuing money that way? And then you can change, hey, how am I valuing money? And really assess that. Just hold on one moment. I'm just getting a low battery here. Okay, another concept that I think is super beneficial for an empath to learn from a narcissistic person is still just the same idea of showing yourself authentically, but really being aware that the less shakeable you are in what is true for you, and you are a sensitive being, so what is true for you is acknowledging the depth of your feelings and acknowledging your sensitivity internally and processing healing, and also standing up for yourself, asking for what you need. This empowered empath view, that's your true you. And narcissistic people at a certain point in your healing can almost challenge you to be like, almost like a test. Like, are you going to stay true to you in this moment, or are you going to put on a mask too? Because just because you're faced with someone who's wearing a mask for themselves doesn't mean you need to go back and find yours and put yours on. And often when we are in sort of less healed empathy mode, we put on some sort of empathy, care, hero mask, care, hero, victim, whatever, in the Empath Energetics program, we do a lot of archetype work to really explore what is that shadow self like. And then when we step into that light self and we are much more closely our true authentic selves, when we have these interactions on a smaller scale with a narcissist, we can actually just ping back and say, yeah, that's not something I need to take in. Their story is not something I need to take in. And it can affect us less and trigger us less, and we can be more effective and we can be more ourselves. And in fact, we then actually inspire others to be more like themselves. And I know that there's a couple people I've worked with who have displayed narcissistic tendencies and come to see me for work that have been really influenced by my own journey of becoming more and more truthful and authentic. And so I know that this is something that does circle back and does work, and has this ripple effect all the way outwards. So the last idea that I wanted to leave you with just in this video, and let me know if it brings up any more questions, or if you have any more to add to the list, anything you think I'm forgetting that an empath can learn from someone with narcissistic tendencies. Or if you have any questions at all, if you just want to support me, feel free to leave a comment here. I would love to see it. The last thing that I wanted to mention is that empaths can learn that everybody needs love from watching the narcissist and their cycle of putting themselves through suffering. Because often empaths are drawn to narcissistic people because there is that shred of reality and genuine heart and truth that almost creeps out in a moment. And so then the empath and the narcissist can meet in that true connection that they feel. And in a way, that pullback is a polarity that is, magnetism in humans. This is like an attraction thing that we're sort of pulled to. They say opposites attract. In another way, like attracts like. And empaths and narcissists have these similarities. They also have these opposites. And so that polarization can really happen. We see a glimpse of, oh my gosh, that's that real person. That's their heart. That's their truth. And then whoop, they slingshot and they're in narcissistic mode. They're in their mask and their ego and all these things that, feel so opposite to their energy. And so what an empath can learn is that person needs love just as much as that person needs love. And you may not be able to always defend yourself. And sometimes you need to walk away from people and their behaviors. So again, this is not a video about why you need to stay with a narcissistic person, but to really view them as, their child self has not really fully healed and developed here because they're doing their best, but really that mask has become their safety. The identity of self-focus and self-interest above showing respect or empathy or care for others was likely developed from an early age and then cemented through adult experiences because they were acting that way. And then it affirmed, hey, they're never going to be loved because they're having a hard time showing that themselves. So we can learn from that behavior that everyone actually deserves love. And had that person had their love needs met from an early age, perhaps this identity would not have developed with them. Again, it's not necessarily your responsibility to be the one to remind them of that love, and they may never see that. But it's really important for us to understand that that's the missing link, and that's something that they're missing. That helps us because then we can frame how we interact. And what I always love to say is what is done in love is done well. So if you are approaching the situation with love and it's really not going your way, you can choose how to interact with that moving forward. Maybe it's not for you. But sometimes when you put a lot of love into a situation, maybe not even a lot, sometimes you put a little bit in, it can really have this ripple effect that positively affects all people involved for however long, that they're able to hold on to that. It's always our responsibility to generate and sustain our own energetic frequency and emotional state and curate, the experiences that we wish to have. So hopefully this video has been helpful. It felt like it touched on lots of different topics within this realm. So please let me know if you resonate, if it brings up any more questions at all. I enjoyed putting it together, things that an empath can learn from a narcissist. And if you are interested in working with me any further on recovering from this type of dynamic or stepping up into your full, authentic, true empath self, your empath heroic self or light self, I would love to work with you. The next round, round 4, and potentially the last really in-depth, intensive round, because I do have some changes coming in the new year. So the last round for a little while will be starting in September 2022. So if you see this before September 2022 and you are interested, please reach out. We'd love to have you. I'm really fascinated by who is already showing interest and starting to build a little bit of the group out as to what it might look like. And this round, I have room for more people than I did in the previous rounds. So again, that early bird pricing is until August 22nd. And so until August 22nd, you can sign up for $222 a month. We'll start in September. If you need a payment plan, let me know. I am pretty flexible and pretty helpful with trying to make sure that this is accessible for people. I want people in this if they're ready for it. And I don't really love money being the thing that stands in the way. And so after that 22nd time comes up, if you're still thinking about it, it's no problem. There will still be time to sign up. The price is just going to go up to $277 a month, and that's US dollars, just because I know some of my followers are Canadian and some are US. Some are from the UK. I have some in Australia. I think there's some from India. Let me know where you're from, actually, if you're from anywhere else, or if you just want to let me know where you're from, because I do have a little bit of a mix here. So I chose US dollars as just sort of a common currency because some of my clients were there already. So that's Empath Energetics. It's really going beautifully this time around. And it's a 4-phase process. You can read all about it down below. And I'm happy to talk about it anytime. We can always do a 15-minute call if you're not sure if it's right for you. There's never any pressure. I actually have turned people away from it when I don't think that that's maybe the level that they're out yet. And we just find something else for them to do or some sort of precursor way for them to get involved. And at the same time, there's some people who have jumped right in and I went, you know what, that just feels right. That person feels like they're right in line. And these things tend to work out. So if you're feeling the call, come chat. Go sign up if you feel ready. That early bird is until August 22nd, so you still have some time to think and prepare. And let me know what you thought. I would love to get this conversation going about empaths versus narcissists, maybe not making it a versus anymore and making it just an understanding of two sides of the same coin. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. We will chat soon. Take care.